Hey everyone, welcome back to War of the Ring with Bob the Canadian. So we have my next league playoff game. I say next, this isn't actually the next one. We're skipping one because this one got like most of it streamed yesterday, but not quite all of it. So I wanted to put this one out first anyway, just in case there were people who'd watched part of the stream and wanted to see how it ended. So anyway, so this is me against Saved by Himmel 1. Obviously, very strong opponent, always bummed to I say bummed. Like it's sad because obviously I want to win, so I'd rather play against someone who isn't going to almost always play the correct move. But at the same time, obviously, it's more exciting playing against the best players, you know. So anyway, so he, as the higher seed, started the bidding and he offered me 2 tokens and a ring. And I thought about it for a bit, and I offered him 3 tokens back. So he cleverly grabbed the Shadow Muster token to add it as the other token there. That's smart. So anyway, here we are. So he draws Wisdom of Valor onto Mithril Coat. I got monsters and candles. I do. Oh, it's warning me about how much it doesn't like the. Oh no! I viewed his cards first. Okay, bear with me. I will reload this. Okay, trying again. So I exited, reloaded, and waited till after he viewed his hand, and then I view his hand. So I think these are the cards that he actually had this time. So I think he had Power of Tom Bombadil and Wizard Staff. We'll see. If he plays them as something else, then maybe I still have it wrong. But anyway, so I do my usual 0 eyes, and I roll 0 more. So that's a scary start for sure. I'm happy to see this, though. Like 3 H's, Army, 2 characters, and a Palantir. Like that's still a great roll for getting military things done with. And he rolls 2 movement and 2 H's. So that's not bad. I'm okay with this as Shadow. Like 2, maybe 3 if he uses a ring. Free movement is a good start for the Fellowship, but at the same time, I'm also, going to be getting stuff done militarily. And oh boy, they're pulling up to do more construction outside. Okay, if you hear noises, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so 2 free movement and 2 H's is also a good start for him anyway. So it's interesting having Wizard Staff and then going against 0 eyes. Like if he had a Palantir, playing it and doing the redraw would be a reasonable choice, but there's no Palantir, so obviously you're not going to play this turn anyway. Okay, so he passes. I muster Isengard down. If you're not sure what to do first, always do the thing that your opponent knows you're going to do anyway, like if it doesn't make any difference. So I muster Saruman down. I could play Monsters Roused, and obviously I'm not going to play Candles this turn because the Fellowship's not going to be revealed because there will be no hunt rolls this turn. So I could play Monsters Roused, but I don't think I want to really, so I draw a card instead. I get Many Kings. So that's a fantastic card to have early in the game. Very happy with that. So I start walking armies. So I don't really want to commit yet because the danger of having given away 3 tokens is that he can have 2 muster tokens like this, right? So I'm still probably thinking I'm going to do the usual rushing Dew and Lorien, but I don't really want to tip that because that would make it more obvious and then he'd feel more comfortable spending the tokens to muster down the elves. So that's why I moved this army here first instead of the usual this orc from North Dunlad to Moria, hoping that maybe he feels like I'm going for Gondor and spends it down here instead. So he moves the Fellowship, of course. I move that army north. He moves the Fellowship again. I move that army north some more. That's right. That's right. I guess his screen is cropped weird, so he couldn't actually put the ring on the Shadow ring down here. So that happens a couple times this game anyway. And moves the Fellowship a 3rd time, which isn't an unreasonable choice by any means, but I was a little surprised to see it, to be honest, because in general, especially if you might play Wizard Staff in the future, personally, I'd rather save my rings for moving when I can try to kill Gandalf and get it back again later. But that's, like, obviously, at the same time, saying no to a free movement does feel bad, too, so okay, and he uses a token to muster down the elves, which I was a little bit bummed to see anyway. So I use that to keep moving. I could use that to muster Sauron to war, but I don't know what I'm going to roll next turn. Like next turn, if I roll 3 musters, then I'll be really glad I spent this as an H. Whereas next turn, if I only roll 1 muster, then I'll wish I'd, spent it mustering Sauron down. It's funny how this game does that. Okay, then he musters the elves down again, which I think makes a lot of sense, because now next turn, with that token, he can bring them to war, so if he rolls even 1 muster, then he can at least muster 1 in the strongholds. The downside to that, though, is that's increasing the odds of me getting an early Witch King, but of course, more elites in the stronghold is pretty strong. Okay, so he picks up Kindred of Glorfindel, and there's another way. Okay, 1 eye, because I have to now, and I roll 2 more, and he rolls, oh right, I remember this roll, 3 Palantirs and an H. So that's pretty awful. To his credit, Sorry, to like looking on the bright side of things, at least he still has Gandalf the Grey, so he can cycle cards pretty hard this turn. But at the same time, I don't know. Like you still don't want that anyway. Like I think you'd rather have like either a couple more musters so you could really make Woodland Realm and Lorien an absolute nightmare for me, or you would rather have 3 characters in the Will of the West so you could just sprint and kill off Gandalf and get Gandalf the White back. I think you'd probably rather have one of those 2 things than this anyway. I also mentioned I complain a little bit. Like clearly he has it worse off than I do, but it does feel bad rolling 3 eyes against 0 movement like that. Like how much would I rather have these 2 eyes back as like army attack dice? Like that would be so much better for me right now. But anyway, so I muster Sauron to war. He uses the token to bring the elves to war. So I was a little surprised by that because you're kind of allowing me to get the Witch King pretty easily. But I guess if you don't do that, like I do have 3 attacks, so this army can't quite make it to Woodland Realm, but this army could join up with Moria and attack Lorien, so I could get the Witch King anyway. So certainly not an unreasonable choice. Okay, so I keep moving. He plays Kindred of Glorfindel and brings in a regular because it does seem unlikely that Rivendell will be attacked anytime soon. And is largely just looking to cycle strategy cards here. Okay, so I keep moving my armies, and so I was glad to be able to pressure both of them at the same time, Lorien and Woodland Realm, because I make him pick. Like if he does muster right now, then I might use his character die to attack Lorien and put it under siege. So he uses it to muster in Lorien right now. And I decide that, you know what, I can wait a turn for the Witch King. That's okay. I'm just excited to get this Woodland Realm under siege without it being mustered at all, because that makes the do line very promising for me. So anyway, he uses a muster. I was a little concerned he might use a ring to muster in Woodland Realm, but then he's spending 2 rings in the first 2 turns, and the Fellowship won't have moved at all this turn, so that would be frustrating. So he cycles Riders of Theoden. That makes sense. And cycles into Círdan's Ships, which is a good card. I'm sure he'd rather see, Power 2 Great, Celeborn, or Thranduil instead. But okay, so I attack Woodland Realm, and he cycles Tom Bombadil. Draws cards to the Citadel. I remember being really worried just with how much cycling he got done this turn, that like the odds of him drawing into Celeborn and or Thranduil, Dane, King Brand was really bad. So I think I'm lucky that neither Thranduil nor Celeborn has shown up. Mind you, it is only turn 2, so like there are still 18 cards out there. So I guess that's not that crazy, but that was a lot of cycling that just happened. Sorry, one second. Anyway, did you know Sauron is allergic to Palantirs? You can't just roll that many Palantirs and expect the Shadow player to not sneeze. That's how it works. Oh, what do you know? There's Celeborn. Okay, one of them did show up. I guess that's a little bit of a spoiler that I said that, huh? Anyway, okay, so he chucks Wizard's Staff, which is, I think, probably correct. It feels bad actually being able to play it and throwing it out, but he certainly doesn't need health right now. Like he's taken 3 steps for free coming into turn 3, but it's unlikely he's going to want to play it this turn because he wants to move and kill Gandalf and get Gandalf the White. He doesn't need that safety as much. Anyway, so I go back to my 0 eyes because, why not tempt fate again? I roll 1 eye this time, but with 3 musters, 3 Palantirs, and 1 character die. So that's not ideal. But let's see. I picked up Breaking and Pits of Mordor. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Anyway, so he musters in Lorien first. I think that makes sense because, I do have 1 attack this turn, so he can muster in there right now before I put it under siege. So I'm, at this point, planning on probably not going after Lorien. So I guess that's the value he got from me giving him 3 tokens, was that he was able to get to the Elves to war quickly and made Lorien pretty much unassailable to me. So anyway. So I mustered the Southrons down because I figured I'd rather pressure his Will of the West, make him do things now. So he moves, and he's safe. Yeah, I mentioned first hunt roll of the game on turn 3. Because first turn there was 0 eyes, and second turn there was 0 movement. So here we are. I mustered the Southrons the rest of the way down. He passes. I bring in the Witch King and Woodland Realm, naturally. I attack Woodland Realm. So I think with 2 desperate battles at hand, I'm planning on being able to win this in 2 combat rounds anyway. Like I feel like I should, and with all this
cycling he's done. I would really like to blow this up before Thranduil shows up, So desperate battle against advantageous position. That's great for him. I roll 1-6 and then 2 more hits on the reroll. So that's 3. That's very nice for me. Works out immediately. So he gets 1 hit back, but obviously I'm very happy about this. Okay. Oh, I hit the wrong button and accidentally recalled dice. Okay. So now that's how it was supposed to be. Yeah, there's supposed to be 1 eye and 1 movement in there already, and I'm playing 1 of 3 Palantirs to end the turn. So I put down many kings because, got to do something with these Palantirs, right? So he spends another ring to move the Fellowship again, naturally hoping to kill Gandalf so he can bring him in with this Will of the West, right? And I roll 5 and I draw 3. So that's just darn it. Like, I really would have rather missed him, or if I hit him, a 0 reveal would have been ideal so that he couldn't get Gandalf. But yeah, that was perfect for him. So would have been really cool if I had Day Without Dawn here to take Gandalf away, but alas, I don't. So instead, since I already have 2 rings, I feel like I might as well keep using them now to kind of keep up the military at a breakneck pace, Because also with all the cycling, if I'm going after Erebor, I'd rather go after it now than wait for, Dane to show up. Okay, so naturally Gandalf the White comes in, and he comes into Lorien, which I think makes sense because, like, with Celeborn's in hand, like, this is such a tough stronghold. Like, I'm not attacking this. It's not in the plans now. My plan is this army is probably going to go down and help fight against Rohan later at this point. Okay, so I use my last Palantir to play Shadow Lengthens here. I get to bring that army up very cutely. And I debated for a bit maybe bringing the orcs from Nirn to Minas Morgul. It's funny how important that's going to be later anyway. But in the end, like, that's only 1 movement, really. Like, if I'd really wanted to get these 10 orcs together, that's 1-2 movement. So bring the 2 there, that's still 1 movement. So I'm essentially only getting 1 movement out of it. So I figure, is 1 movement here really more important, or is 1 movement here more important? Like, I'd rather have these guys in Umbar for if I draw into Corsairs, right? So anyway, that's why I Scooby-Doo that. Okay, so I pick up Grond and New Powers Rising. Great cards. Oh, and now he picks up Thranduil. That is so frustrating. This game is such a troll like that. The number of times that has happened is just astronomical, man. That is not okay. Okay, so he chucks Guards of the Citadel. Yeah, it's pretty... I'm not... It doesn't look like I'm going towards Minas Tirith anytime soon, so that's reasonable. Maybe I would have chucked I Will Go Alone, but maybe he has planned for that. Okay, so I allocate 1 and roll no more. A little bit bummed about the 4 Palantirs, but this is still an okay roll on the whole, anyway. And he rolls that. So the plus side to this roll for me, anyway, is that he has no H's and only 1 Will of the West. So he could move this guy into Erebor, but it would cost him 1 of only 2 movement that he has to move against 1 eye, or it would cost him a ring to get that dwarf in there. So that's a very fortunate roll for me, actually. So he instead... Yeah, he does use I Will Go Alone, and he chucks some companions into Erebor, which I think makes sense because the Fellowship has taken 5 steps, and all they've lost is Gandalf, and efficiently 2 or 3. So you can afford to spend some of your companions to slow down the military, because my military is moving at an okay pace so far. Not great, seeing as how Lorien is, but okay. So and these armies are strong, right? Like, without help, this Erebor will probably die quickly. Like, I'm not sure if this really makes a difference about whether Erebor will stand against both these armies, but it certainly makes my life more difficult anyway. Anyway, the bummer is that he's playing I Will Go Alone, and he doesn't get to heal at all from it because the Fellowship has taken 0 corruption, but that's not really an issue at the moment. But anyway, thinks about it for a bit. Right, he ended up putting 2 Captains of the West there, Legolas and Gimli. Interestingly, he had Book of Mazarbul, but he played it as a card earlier. But naturally, that wouldn't even help you that much at this point anyway, because I'm about to besiege Erebor. So if you played Book of Mazarbul, then they're at war, but congrats, I'm just going to step on Iron Hills next turn anyway. So anyway, so I attack Erebor, goes into siege naturally. I attack Iron Hills from the Southrons, no card. I get my 1 hit, he gets 1 hit back. So now the dwarves are at war anyway. So I thought for a bit about how to play this because, with 4 Palantirs, things are weird. So obviously I could play Grond, and that's good, but I'd rather weaken this army first and bring over reinforcements from the Southrons and then play Grond. Because if I play Grand right now, there's a chance I just die, because he is rolling 5 dice now that he has 2 Captains of the West there. I do, remarkably though, I have all 3 Dread and Despairs in hand. Like, that's pretty weird for turn 4. That's a very weird concentration. So anyway, like, I definitely want to play Grand for the event, but I'm not really planning on doing corruption stuff. So these are probably just Dread and Despair. So I'm going to use to make my life better here. So anyway. Oh, yeah. So I'd say this is kind of dumb, and I use Nazgul Strike just to pivot more Nazgul leadership over here, because especially with playing Dread and Despair, this means I still can, reduce his fighting ability and still have more attacking power myself. So that's why I bother to do this. And it's this Palantir that is useless to me anyway. So anyway. So I attack Erebor. Right, I'm going to attack Erebor once. Hopefully, whittle my army down and his army down a bit. Then I'm going to use this army die to bring reinforcements from Iron Hills, and then I'm going to play Grand. That's the plan here. Okay, so I'm playing a strategy card, so it's probably Desperate Battle. He plays Celeborn's Galadrim. Yeah, he sees that I'm probably not going after Lorien, so he uses it as a combat card. I think that makes a lot of sense. I get no hits, 1 hit. So that's a little below average, but whatever. So and he rolls 4 hits back, so that doesn't feel amazing for me. Like mission accomplished. I did whittle down my army. I just didn't do as much damage to his army as I would have liked. So, but anyway. Fellowship moves, and they're hit. So that's really weird already. So this is the 3rd movement that they've had a die rolled against them. Rolled 1 at 6, 1 at 5, 1 at 6, and they've been hit twice. So that's pretty bad luck. It's a 2. So a reveal would have been even better, but I'm still glad that they got hit. So he takes a random. It's a Hobbit. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I think this is an upside to him exiting 2 companions but leaving both the hobbits, is that taking a random makes it more likely that he'd get a hobbit that he could separate and put in Fangorn, so that he could still threaten end cards against Orthanc there. So that's a good plan, right? Okay, so I shuffle armies along, get Erebor ready, and I move armies from Gorgoroth to Minas Morgul, because Fellowship moves again, and they're hit again. So that's 4 moves. 1 at 6, 1 at 5, 1 at 6, 1 at 5, and they're hit 3 out of 4 times. That's just really bad luck. So now it's an eye, so now it's 1 reveal. So he takes the 1 corruption and reveals in Druiden Forest. Okay, and the second tile is a 3, so that is also good news bears for me. So it's a random, and he takes a Hobbit, so Pippin naturally goes to Minas Tirith. So it's crazy how the game does this. Like, corruption went from absolutely not an issue at all to suddenly it's an issue. And I guess that's the downside to separating companions, right? So here is a tough choice for me. Yeah, so I'd been taking a while here, take checks to know that it's my move, because I was taking a while. So I could play Breaking of the Fellowship here. And some people might call it a mistake for me doing this, but especially in hindsight with what happens later, I'm very glad I didn't play it here. I didn't want to play it because not only would I be, like, there's a good chance I'm just going to pull an 9. Well, not a good chance, but it's out there anyway. And there's so many 0s and 1s there that there's a good chance I'm only getting 1 companion out anyway. Like the 2s and 3s that would move him all the way down to Gollum are out there. And also, like, do I really want Strider and Boromir to be here right next to Gondor? Like, what a mess I'm making for myself that way. Also, I felt like accelerating him towards Gollum when there's all these standard revealing tiles in there seemed kind of helpful for him too. So anyway, also I kind of wanted to play it for Dread and Despair against all these dice in Erebor. So anyway, that's why I made that choice. So I go ahead and I draw a strategy card first because I don't know. I guess I wanted something better I wanted a strategy card to play as a combat card turn 1 in Erebor so that I could cycle more strategy cards and hopefully draw into Corsairs. He hides the Fellowship. I play Grand on Erebor, and I open with a character card instead. Okay, so I play Breaking there. And he plays Valor, so naturally I forfeit 4 because I don't want him to have all 5 of those dice hitting back. I roll no hits, which is a bummer, and he rolls 1. So not exactly the opening I would have liked, but here we are. Round 2, I think I play Rage of the Dunlendings here. Yeah. So, yeah, I play Rage of the Dunlendings here because, I don't know. It feels bad breaking up the set of New Powers Rising and Rage of the Dunlendings, but I felt like I really wanted something to actually help my offensive power crack open Erebor. And I wanted to keep candles because especially when the corruption is high and he's still on companions, like there's a good chance that adds like 2 corruption, right? So anyway, that's why I'm doing this. I take my 2 hits and I roll no 4s or 5s, so that's a bummer. I roll a second 6, so that's at least 2 hits. That's not bad. He gets 2 hits back as well. We press on to the last round, and I'm a little wary of a heroic death here because, he put these level 2 companions in here. So that's why I play Onslaught here, so that, if he'd played a heroic death, I could have tried to Onslaught past it. Anyway. So he gets his pre-strike, his sudden strike, hits 3, rolls 3 dice, hits on 5 and 6, misses all of them, and I just roll 2 6s, so I didn't need the Onslaught anyway. He gets 3 hits back though, so that doesn't feel great, but it's still very good for me that I got Erebor anyway. So he musters Rohan down, and I think I play New Powers Rising. Yeah, I play New Powers Rising. Okay, so he picks up. Now Wisdom of Elrond goes up. Not turn 1. Turn now. Okay. I draw Musterings and Shelob. I allocate 1 eye, and I roll 5 more. So that... yeah, I say lol because that's just... Man, what do you do about that? Like on one hand... I don't mind that it's focusing on corruption because corruption is suddenly an issue. But at the same time, I don't know. Like, I would still rather keep my military progress going and just... Because I'm hitting him with 1 die anyway. So, yeah, might as well just let that keep happening. So he moves and he gets hit. And notably, it is with the 5th die. So there's, that's the upside to having rolled all these eyes. And it's a 2, and we take a random, and it's Strider. So naturally, I'm very happy to see that. It makes me glad that I didn't play Breaking and force him to be separated, because now he's dead anyway, and he can't, crown him and get 6 dice and make a military attempt, more likely. Okay, so I pass, but then I decide that I want to do something anyway, and he's nice enough to let me take my turn anyway. And I play Candles here because if he moves again, he might get revealed, right? If he moves again, he's probably going to get hit, and then he won't have Boromir as the guide anymore, and then Candles won't do as much damage. So I play Candles now, and I get 2 hits. So that feels good, The corruption game is strong all of a sudden. Okay. So we disconnected. I think this is the part where things got finicky, and it took a while to get the game going again. I think I'm realizing that this is when he gave up on the stream. Whatever glitch happened, the stream didn't work anymore. So for those of you who watched the stream, welcome. Here's part 2. Okay, so he musters Rohan down to war, which makes sense. He has all these musters, and I can't do anything to touch Rohan right now. Yeah, finishes mustering Rohan all the way to war. I muster up in Orthanc, he musters in Helm's Deep, and I muster in Minas Morgul. And he moves armies out towards Helm's Deep. Okay, so Orc Patrol and Return of the Witch King. I almost said Return of the King, and it's like, hang on a sec, that doesn't feel right rolling off my tongue talking about Shadow. But yeah, Return of the Witch King is like almost, title of book/movie 3. But just with the word witch snuck in there. I hadn't appreciated that before. Anyway, so he picks up Through a Day and a Night and Ents Awake. So those are pretty fun cards if you're going to do something crazy. Anyway. Okay, so I'm glad I got to be nice in return anyway. He says Fellowship is okay and then says wait. So like if I'd been a real jerk, I might have hit the roll dice button anyway. But I like that he likes to play nice, and I like to play nice too. Like as long as nothing important has happened, I feel like it's more sporting to let people change their mind. So he decides to declare Minas Tirith, which is, I think, a reasonable decision for sure. It gets him out of range of a lot of cards like Cruel Weather or, Orc Patrol. And yeah, so now the only things, a 0 reveal or an eye would reveal him out of Minas Tirith, but the 2R or 1Rs, he could kill Boromir too and then have Gollum, so he can dodge those. So there's a good chance that he just won't be revealed again and get into Mordor. So anyway. And also, if he rolled like no movement and I rolled lots of eyes, then he could stay another turn and heal some more. So anyway, I roll 2 more eyes and he rolls all movement though. So not a great turn for sitting and waiting because there's not a whole lot you're going to get done elsewhere on the map. So I pick up a character card because I see that he has a lack of musters, right? Like not a single muster, hybrid die, or Will of the West. So I'm excited about going after Dol Amroth this turn. However, I only have one natural army movement, and I have one ring, but I do have these 2 character dice. So if I did manage to draw into anything that allowed me to move my Nazgul, I haven't seen Ring Racer Abroad or Black Captain commands yet, and we're a little ways into the deck. So I draw a character card, hoping for one of those 2. Because if I did have that, then I could use the Palantir to pivot, and then I'd have 4 attacks total, so that'd be perfectly enough to go get Dol Amroth this turn. Sorry, a little bit diseased here. Okay, so he moves the Fellowship, and they're safe. I attack Dale. That's not only am I still hoping to cycle into one of those cards, but I'm also hoping, obviously I want to attack Dale at some point, and I also might get the Mouth this turn. If I attack Dale here, that brings the North the rest of the way to war. Then if this army goes and just attacks Pelargir, then Gondor's at war, and I can get the Mouth a turn early. So that's assuming he goes all the way to Mordor this turn. And I also get to keep cycling character cards. So anyway. So I attack Dale, I roll my 6, he rolls not a hit back, so that's nice for me. And I draw into Black Captain, so that's nice. But to be fair, I drew 2 cards, and there were 2 cards in there that I was looking for, so that's not crazy unlikely, but it still feels lucky for sure, though. Okay, so he moves again. He got a hit, and it's a 0 reveal. So it's a bummer for him for sure that he got revealed. Obviously, and I would have been even... maybe the 0 reveal is debatably worse, actually, because it's getting pleasant tiles out of the hunt pool in Mordor, anyway. But, of course, and I would have actually done damage. It's tomato, anyway. Okay, so I move armies out. Yeah, because I'm still not sure which way I want to go. I definitely want to play Black Captain commands to pivot a leadership and attack Pelargir. But the question is, then am I going to use that character die to play Orc Patrol and bring in the Mouth? Or am I going to use both of these dice, one to attack and one with a ring, to get Dol Amroth? Because getting Dol Amroth right now before he can muster up at all feels good. The downside is he's done so much cycling that he probably has Círdan and or Imrahil, and he does have Círdan. But at the same time, I'd still rather get it before he added any extra elites to it, So, anyway. Things to think about. He hides the Fellowship. I play Black Captain commands, and I attack Pelargir. I play a strategy card. Am I playing Swarm of Bats, I guess? Yeah, Swarm of Bats against Confusion. Oh, right, I remember this was a really good Confusion to kill because, I rolled 2 1s. I would have been 2 hits against that army, and that would have felt bad. So I successfully killed that guy, and now Gondor is at war. So I could bring in the Mouth this turn. I guess the fact that I say that kind of hints that I don't, right? So I move these armies forward because at this point, I think I'm actually thinking about going for 4 cities. So I have the Dew, which is 5, and then Dol Amroth, which is 7, and then 3 more points from these remaining cities. So that's why this army is walking down here, because the plan is that they're going to sit on Pelargir after this army takes out Dol Amroth. And then this army will come and bulldoze their way to Edoras, and this army, maybe with this army as well, will go get the Shire. I do have to get rid of Tom Bombadil this way, but it's a route to look at. I might also instead get Dol Amroth and Pelargir, and then this army would go get Helm's Deep. That's another option I'm thinking about. So he used the token, of course, to avoid Cruel Weather. I also specifically wanted to save my character die for the last die so that I'm threatening Cruel Weather, and I make him use the token here to change the tempo. So, interestingly, I could play Orc Patrol, and there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10 chance that it does something good for me. And if it was the 0 reveal, then he would be revealed, and he wouldn't be able to get it into Mordor this turn. But that's only 1 out of 10, so that's pretty unlikely. If it's any of these, then he'd kill Boromir to it so as to not be revealed. So I think about doing that anyway, but I've committed enough to going after Dol Amroth, so I finished the plan of going after Dol Amroth. And the Fellowship moves, and they're hit 3 times, and it's an eye. That's so crazy, Like, it's just... So the odds of being hit 3 times isn't that crazy. That's 1 in 8. Like, that is still unlikely. But then being hit 1 in 8, and then the 30% eye draw. Like, I'm not sure what the odds are in that, but that's pretty low, and that's just brutal stuff. So Boromir out, 1 corruption up, and he's revealed into Minas Morgul, and I draw a 2R. So there's another 2 damage. So now he's starting the Mordor track on 8 corruption, and at Gollum, and with Gollum. To be fair, the hunt pool is pretty nice. There's a 0, 4 ones, file, but then there's the eyes and a 3. And I do have 2 red tiles to chuck in there. But still, starting at 8 corruption isn't what anyone wanted. He did pick up Bilbo's song, and there's another way, though. So there's some hope here, anyway. Anyway, but then this turn happens. I allocate 1 eye, and I roll 2 more, and no musters, and few army movement. And he rolls this gorgeous roll of 2 H's, 2 wills, and a Palantir. So he was, I'm sure, planning on hiding the Fellowship with that Will of the West, because if you're planning on going if you are planning on still trying to dunk, that is certainly the correct call. But I remember he thought for a long time here, and I realized, he's definitely thinking about going for a Free People's Military win, because if you are, like, this is a perfect turn for it. Like, these Wills of the West and hybrid dice are like the best military dice you could ask for. You could rather that these Wills of the West were hybrid dice, so that there's no risk of Day Without Dawn, but 4 of those and a Palantir. So the Palantir you can threaten through a day and a night. Like, you have Pippin here, you have Gandalf here. Like, both of those are options. And you've already seen me use Pits of Mordor and Orcs Multiplying again. So that makes Dol Guldur very vulnerable. Like, there's no card I can play to reinforce it. And I only have 1 army movement. If I had 2 army movement, this army could come back and defend Dol Guldur very easily. But because I only have 1 army movement and no musters, he knows that if this army starts walking, it will be difficult for this army to defend Dol Guldur. And similarly, Mordor is pretty empty. So anyway, after thinking about it for a while, he ends up... he passes. That's right. Because if I have Day Without Dawn, it's going to ruin this turn for him either way. So he passes and waits to see if I have it, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like, you gotta gamble on your smaller chances when the game's been mean to you like this. So I think about it for a bit, but I think that between my musterings of Unplanned War, like, he could probably get 1 of Dol Guldur or Moria from this army attacking Dimrill Dale, and I think that's fine. And I think with musterings, I'm probably safe to hold on to Mordor. So I go ahead and attack Dol Amroth, and in hindsight, I think this is really a mistake. I really think I should have used this character die to move leadership around, so that this Dimrill Dale army would then be more mobile. It would be able to go and fight and defend Dol Guldur, and having leadership on here would mean that this army could threaten coming out and fighting for Minas Tirith. Like, the world just would have been so much safer if I'd done that first, because I had such few attacking dice. So I think this is probably actually the biggest mistake I make this game. Debatably, I'm about to make another mistake a little later on that might be bigger. So anyway, I attacked Dol Amroth. What I was thinking here was that cycling strategy cards, I was really worried about him attacking Dimrill Dale and if that fight goes well for him, then I have to choose which way to retreat. So I was hoping to draw into Shadows on the Misty Mountain, so that I could play that, and then when he attacks that, I could retreat this way and defend Dol Guldur and play that card to defend Moria. So anyway, I play Great Host against advantageous position. I roll 1 hit. He rolls 1 hit. Naturally, I get another one from my Great Host. I press. And what do you know? I actually picked up Shadows on the Misty Mountains. Like, that's a good card for defending Moria and Mount Gundabad anyway. No card. I get 1 hit. He gets not a hit. So I am up to 8 points. So this is scary, but he still has all that attacking pressure. If he could get to 4 points before I get to 8 points, before I get to 10 points, then that's the end of the world for me anyway. So he uses Will of the West, and he moves out to Parth Celebrant and to Osgiliath. So this is actually this is a daring and brilliant bluff on his part. So putting this army here, I thought to myself, he must have scouts, because he cycled through so much of this deck, and I haven't seen a single scouts card played yet. Like, the odds of him not having a scouts are very small, but he actually didn't have a scouts, and he was playing that bait. So I guess the plan there was that if I attacked Parth Celebrant, he was probably going to play There's Another Way, like the heroic death, so that if I did roll 2 hits, then he could sacrifice Gandalf and that army survives. And then if I pressed the attack, then he could retreat to Western Brownlands and then take Dol Guldur, which would be sacrificing Gandalf, but like getting those crucial points, right? And of course, he's also threatening, like, if I used if I did have Ring Racer Abroad and managed to move this army to South Anduin Vale, then he could do through a day and a night and sneak into Dol Guldur that way. So anyway, I was convinced that he had scouts, so I did not bother attacking Parth Galebrant because that would only help him, right? So instead, I play musterings of Long Planned War to, insta-grow an army in Mordor there, which I'm very happy about. I feel very secure at this point. I really shouldn't have. I really should have been more scared than I was. He thinks for a while and does what, I figured is probably the only real correct move at this point. He moves to North Ithilien and to Western Brownlands. So unless he knows there's no way for me to defend Dol Guldur. I knew there was no way for me to defend Dol Guldur, not after I spent that first character die attacking Dol Amroth. So I really misplayed that. I really should have moved leadership first. Anyway, this is also an argument for why I maybe shouldn't have used a ring to snatch Dol Amroth like that, and I should have just mustered in the mouth instead, because then not only would I have an extra die to defend myself with this turn, but I would also have a ring. And being able to spend a ring to muster even just a regular here in Dol Guldur would have made the siege very difficult. Obviously, I probably would have put in an elite anyway. But now, of course, I also have to be scared of, through a day and a night, of this army poaching into Morannon. So I use my army die to move most of the army into Minas Morgul to put up a good defense, and I move one regular to Morannon. So this is also a mistake because, well, you'll see why it's a mistake in a bit. So he walks to Daggerlad and to Dol Guldur. So he's up to 2 points. Unless I have Ring Racer Abroad, there's no way I can take it back. Like if I had Ring Racer Abroad, I could pivot leadership, step there, use my character dice, attack to put on siege, attack to take it back. That would have felt so good. But sadly, I do not have Ring Racer Abroad. Or if I'd had Day Without Dawn, this story wouldn't have happened at all. Okay, so then I play Shadows Gather, and I bring that army with, like I mentioned earlier, those 2 orcs from Nirn to Morannon. So now it's an 8 regular army. So I didn't actually stop to do the math, and maybe I should have, about whether I actually win this field battle or not. Because what I realized shortly after doing this is that I actually have to stay and fight this field battle to the bitter end. I can't fight a little bit and then retreat into a siege, because if I do, I can't occupy Gorgoroth and stop him from then playing through a day and a night and sneaking into Barad-dûr and being up to 4 points and winning the game then. Also, if I'd pivoted leadership, this army would have been threatening to, with my 3 remaining attacks, to go and take Minas Tirith and, win the game that way. But then again, if I'd pivoted leadership, I wouldn't have had enough dice to take Dol Amroth as well. So never mind. Out of my mistakes this turn, that is not a point against him anyway. So he obviously is very sad to see that I had musterings and Shadows Gather. Like that was too good, very strong. I think he mentions probably the 2 best cards for defending this game. Like, to be fair, this was a bad roll, like an unlikely turn of events, but that is certainly a criticism against the way I played this game, is that I play with fire a little bit, and I leave the door open for bad rolls like this to come along and punish me. So anyway, so he attacks Morannon, and naturally I have to stay for a field battle. So he plays a card, and I could play Onslaught, but that doesn't help at all. Like, that's not what I want here. So right, and it's charge. So he gets the attack ahead of time at 1, which is what you got to do, right? That's it's if you win this fight, you win the game. If you lose this fight, the game goes on, but you probably lose. So it doesn't help a lot, but it helps some anyway. Alternatively, of course, at the start of this turn, he could have played Círdan's ships and hoped I didn't have Day Without Dawn, and then hid and moved and used the Palantir to move again with There's Another Way, and hoped to hold on for another turn and play Bilbo Song and hopefully get lucky and dunk anyway. Like File is out there. Like if you hit File and a couple ones, then suddenly you're here and you're at like 7 corruption. So yeah. Anyway. Okay, so his pre-attack missed. He gets 2 hits on the rolls. I get 2 hits as well. So anyway, I'm not sure actually who is supposed to win this. With the cards, I feel like maybe him. But like he has 6 hit points to my 8. And as soon as he takes 2 hits, then he's rolling less combat dice, but he has 2 leadership, whereas I have 0 leadership. So that's another huge point as to why I should have moved leadership first. If there was even 2 Nazgul on this fight, just how much better would this fight feel, Anyway. Or if the mouth was here, that would help too. So naturally, so I lose 2 regulars, he loses the elite, he presses the attack, I stay. He plays a character card, so it's probably Heroic Death. Yeah, it's got to be Heroic Death. And I naturally don't have any cards to play again. So he rolls 3 hits. That hurts. But I roll 4 hits. So crazy stuff, man. Just crazy, crazy stuff. So we're both hitting above average so far, anyway. So he kills the army and then remembers that he played Heroic Death. So naturally, the leader goes and Pippin stays, and I still have to stay and fight this field battle because if I retreat into a siege, then he's going to, again, through a day and a night into Barad-dûr. And because I know, like, just he's playing so confidently around it that I feel like he must have through a day and a night by now. I'm also scared that he's going to play it for the confusion effect, and then I'm going to roll 2 1s and just lose that way, you know? So he presses, and he says no card. I'm a little surprised he didn't play it first here. Because are you really hoping that this 1 regular and leader reroll is going to beat 3 regulars? That's unlikely anyway. So he gets not a hit, and I also get not a hit. So that's a very moment for me. Because if he'd gotten a hit and then I'd rolled not a hit, then it's, getting more likely. So I stay, and now he plays Confusion. No card. He rolls a hit. Hoping I roll 2 1s. I roll a hit, though. So at long last, this nightmare of a turn ends for me. So yeah, all that's left is those 2 regulars there. If I had moved those 2 regulars from Nirn, then that army would not have been strong enough, and I would have lost the game right there. So that's crazy. I've never had those 2 orcs from Nirn be this important before. Usually they either tag along in the backup army of 10 regulars, or they just sit there till the end of the game. It's usually what happens. Yeah. Like I mentioned, I misplayed it. I should have moved only 4 regulars into Minas Morgul and left 1 behind in Gorgorov, because his 4-1 against my 4 regulars, like, it's unlikely he would have won that siege anyway, because he would have only had 1 die to attack and would have had to spend no, I guess he would have had 2 attacks, but I would have been able to move leadership there, and then I would have been able to play cards like they are terrible and hit back harder. So it's unlikely that would have worked out well for him. Anyway. Yeah. Now I'm mentioning my big mistake of not leaving a regular in Gorgoroth. So anyway, I pivot leadership because, I want that army to be ready to go and attack Minas Tirith next turn, in case I don't roll any character dice next turn. Yeah, I also mentioned how, if I'd had Day Without Dawn, we also wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Like, a really epic, very well played on his part. I think reasonably well played on my part. Like, hanging on to Shadows Gather and Musterings was good on my part, but I also made mistakes here for sure. Like chucking Pits of Mordor, chucking Orcs Multiplying, not moving leadership at the start, not leaving a regular. Like mistakes were made on my part here for sure. Like, I still, I don't know. On the whole, I think I played this game okay, but it doesn't feel great though. So he plays Bilbo Song. Makes sense. And I chuck in Shelob's Lair, which is also a mistake, actually. I really should have just moved this army to Osgiliath. Like, he can't win next turn. Like, with 5 dice, hide, move. Like, it's literally impossible. Like, why am I wasting an attack putting in a red tile? Like what I should be more concerned about is what if I only roll like 1 attack next turn, which is unlikely, granted, but more possible than him dunking next turn. So anyway, so on we go. So he takes his 1 corruption for having not moved or hit at all last turn. I draw Dreadful Spells and Deadly Strife. So I allocate 1 eye and I roll no more. So that's sudden. Like, now I have a muster and 2 hybrid dice. Like, if I'd had this roll last turn, again, this wouldn't have been close at all. But here we are. So he uses Will of the West to muster in Minas Tirith. I think that makes sense. I move armies towards Minas Tirith. He uses the ring. Yeah, he uses his last ring to muster again in Minas Tirith. I think that makes a lot of sense. You're kind of just praying that you get lucky and Minas Tirith holds on at this point. So I attack Minas Tirith. I use Dreadful Spells on Minas Tirith. I get 1 hit. That's about what you'd expect. Because I have a Palantir that's useless anyway, so I figured I might as well. So I attack Minas Tirith. Deadly Strife against Valor, and I, for the first time in my life, roll 0 hits on a 5 army, 5 leadership Deadly Strife roll, which, I don't know, let's see, 1 and 2, 1 and 4, 1 and 8, 1 and 16, 1 and 32, 1 and 64, 1 and 128, 1 in... Yeah, my brain's running out of... I'm busting out the calculator for this one, because I want to actually say what the odds are of that, because that's pretty crazy. So 8, times 2, 256 times 2, 12 times 2, 1,024. 1 in 1,024 of not getting a single hit on a deadly strife like that. So that doesn't feel great for me for sure. Like I'm still probably going to win this turn, but it's the kind of roll that makes you wonder, like, what if the game just says no? What if just no, Bob, you don't get the win today, and he gets 2 hits back, which is about expected. Okay, so I don't press because, I have a ring again. So the plan at this point is I'm going to walk this army over 1, 2, and then attack again. And I'm very relieved to see hill trolls because that means I can promote to more elites and press the attack more. So, yeah, he's mentioning that he'd wished those rolls had showed up in Moran. And yeah, because if I'd whiffed on 10 dice in a row like that and he'd rolled 6s like that, this would be over. He'd just won. So, anyway. Fellowship hides. I walk my armies over. Fellowship moves, and it's file. So oh boy. Now I'm getting scared again because I don't actually have that much more gas for attacking Minas Tirith. So anyway, the army comes in, and I guess that army starts walking over from Dol Amroth because I don't know what else am I going to do here. So he passes. I play hill trolls to bolster the army on Minas Tirith. He moves the Fellowship again, and it's a 1. So now I'm feeling really stupid for playing Shelob last turn. Like, that hasn't helped. And, what if I don't crack Minas Tirith right now? Like, I really should. But if I don't, then we go to another turn, and all he needs is, 3 more moves on cute little ones like that, and that's GG. So, anyway, I use the ring, I attack Minas Tirith. He points out that I could get the mouth. I say, oh man, darn, silly me. Yeah, it is funny having 3 turns in a row like this where I could have gotten the mouth, but each turn, well, the last turn it wasn't an option, but both this turn and last turn. This turn it really didn't make sense. 2 turns ago it was certainly debatably a good choice. In hindsight, I think probably actually the correct choice. Anyway. Okay, so I attack Minas Tirith. That's fine. You're great. Yeah. You never know. So I play a strategy card mainly just to cycle strategy cards. He has no playable cards. So yeah, here we go. So I get 2 hits. That's better. He also gets 2 hits. I chuck 2 on the onslaught because might as well, right? And I just get 2 hits with the onslaught. So that's it. So I win. Whew, man. For how much luck I had, boy, we made a run out of that. Like, and that's the mark of a great player like Saved by Him is that you can, take a bad game and make a good shot of it. That being said, like, that roll was perfect for him, but my cards to defend against it were also perfect. So, I think on the whole, pretty well played. I think I made more mistakes than he did this game, but I mean, I played the military rush well though on the whole, just with the mistake of rushing a little too hard and leaving that room for the Free People's military win. But obviously, I'm happy to get the win anyway, especially after, he beat me in the semifinals for the Lord's Tournament earlier this year. So for our games now, it's, I guess that's like a 4-game shadow winning streak, huh? Yeah. Anyway, let's take a look at statistics. So -3 on 6s for me, 0 on 5s. So I guess that is saying something anyway, that I didn't have great luck on combat overall. I guess I used what luck I did have on that battle in Morannon. And overall, he actually rolled more hits combat-wise than I did. +5 on Palantirs, +2 on Eyes, +3 on Characters, -3 on Army, -3 on H's, -2 on Muster. So yeah, not actually great rolls for me. Like, to be fair, it gave me good cards to work with the Palantirs, so it didn't slow down my military as much. But I'd still rather have, more H's than Palantirs anyway. Also a little Palantir heavy for him, +2. Anyway. I think he mentions like maybe he should have, played Círdan and moved the Fellowship because, like, 2020 hindsight, if you are going to draw file in a 1, then that's an entirely reasonable choice. But yeah, as he mentions, like, even if you play Círdan's, I probably win that siege anyway. But there's always a chance that things go horribly wrong anyway. Anyway, that's the game. Best of luck to him in whoever he's playing against next. I don't think we know who he's playing against next. But yeah, have a good one.